Amidst the blaze, a 9-year-old girl's incredible act saves her entire family. The aroma of freshly baked apple pie filled the air of the Peterson home, a century-old house standing proudly in the heart of Willow Creek. It was one of those autumn evenings where the wind whispered secrets through the golden leaves, and the stars seemed to twinkle with unusual intensity, as if aware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Catherine Peterson, with her 62 years and eyes that held a lifetime of stories, set the dinner table with almost reverent care. Her fingers, slightly trembling but still nimble, positioned each fork and knife with pinpoint accuracy. Beside her, John, her 65-year-old husband, grumbled about the news on television, his gruff voice a stark contrast to the gentle clinking of the tableware. "Grandma, can I help with the napkins?" The melodious voice of Lily, just 9 years old, cut through the air like a flute in an orchestra. Catherine turned, a smile illuminating her wrinkled face. "Of course, my dear. How kind of you to offer," Catherine replied, watching with a mixture of pride and wonder as her granddaughter skillfully folded the napkins into swan shapes. There was something special about Lily, something beyond her chronological age. Her eyes, deep blue like the ocean, seemed to hold an ancient wisdom, an understanding of the world that many adults still struggled to grasp. Sarah, Lily's mother, entered the dining room carrying a steaming dish of roasted chicken. At 35, she was the spitting image of Catherine in her youth, except for her eyes, the same captivating blue as Lily's. "Lily, honey, you didn't have to bother. Go wash your hands for dinner," Sarah said, placing the dish in the center of the table. "It's no bother, Mom. I like helping," Lily replied, her tone surprisingly mature for a child her age. Sarah exchanged a knowing glance with Catherine, a silent question hanging between them. Where did this unusual maturity come from? David, Lily's father, entered the room at that moment, his 38 years etched in the lines around his eyes. "Something smells wonderful in here," he commented, kissing Sarah on the cheek before taking his seat. "How was your day at school, Princess?" Lily sat at the table, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "It was great, Dad. We had a special safety lesson today. Firefighter Johnson taught us about fire prevention and what to do in an emergency." The family listened attentively as Lily recited, with impressive accuracy, the safety instructions. "Always have an escape plan. Check the batteries in the smoke detectors regularly and never, ever go back into a burning building," she concluded, her serious eyes fixed on the adults around the table. "That's very important, Lily," John said, his deep voice filled with approval. "Shall you never know when that kind of knowledge might save lives?" Little did they know how prophetic those words would prove to be. Dinner continued with a sense of comfort and familiarity. Stories were shared, laughter echoed through the room, and for a moment, the world outside, with all its dangers and uncertainties, seemed distant and irrelevant. As Catherine served the apple pie, Lily suddenly fell silent, her eyes fixed on a point beyond the window. "Is everything all right, honey?" Sarah asked, noticing the sudden change in her daughter's demeanor. Lily blinked, as if coming out of a trance. "Yes, Mom, I was just thinking. It's funny how things can change so quickly, isn't it? One minute you're safe at home, and the next..." Her voice trailed off, leaving a heavy silence in the air. For a moment, a shiver ran down the spines of everyone at the table, as if a shadow had briefly passed over the house. David chuckled nervously, breaking the tension. "Well, that's why we have safety lessons, right? To be prepared for anything." The rest of the evening passed uneventfully. Dishes were washed, good nights were exchanged, and one by one, the members of the Peterson family retired to their rooms. Lily was the last to go upstairs, pausing for a moment to look back, her eyes sweeping across the living room as if wanting to etch every detail into her memory. As the lights went out and the silence of night enveloped the Peterson house, no one could have predicted that in a few short hours, their lives would be turned upside down, that Lily's unusual skills would be put to the test in a way no one could have imagined, and that this ordinary night in Willow Creek would be remembered as the calm before the storm that would change everything. The clock on the wall struck midnight. In the attic, hidden beneath years of dust and neglect, a frayed electrical wire began to sizzle softly. The silence of the night was shattered by a soft crackling sound. In the attic of the Peterson house, flames danced silently, feeding on old boxes and forgotten memories. The fire, hungry and merciless, grew with each passing second, engulfing everything in its path. Lily awoke with a start, her heart pounding against her chest. Something was wrong. The air in her room felt heavy, suffocating. She blinked, trying to clear the sleep from her eyes, when the unmistakable smell of smoke filled her nostrils. Fire. The word echoed in her mind, bringing with it a flood of memories from the safety lesson. Firefighter Johnson's instructions reverberated in her ears as if he were there in that very moment. Stay calm. Think fast. Act with precision. Lily jumped out of bed, her mind clear and focused, a stark contrast to the chaos that was beginning to unfold around her. She ran to the door, touching it with the back of her hand to check the temperature. It was warm, but not scorching. Carefully, she opened it a crack. A cloud of smoke billowed into the room, stinging her eyes. The hallway, once familiar and welcoming, now resembled a nightmare. Flames licked at the walls, devouring the framed family photos, turning years of memories to ash. "Mom! Dad!" Lily cried, her voice almost swallowed by the growing roar of the fire. She dropped to the floor, remembering that the air near the ground was cleaner, and crawled along the hallway towards her parents' room. Sarah and David awoke disoriented, Lily's cries mingling with the shrill sound of the smoke alarm that finally went off. "Fire! We have to get out now." Lily's voice, surprisingly firm, cut through the confusion. "Oh my God, Lily!" Sarah exclaimed, panic evident in her voice. David was already on his feet, trying to assess the situation. "Mom, Dad, remember the escape plan," Lily insisted, her voice filled with a mature urgency. "We have to get Grandma and Grandpa and go out the fire escape. Quickly!" Driven by their daughter's determination, Sarah and David followed Lily through the smoke-filled hallway. The heat was intense, the flames advancing rapidly, consuming everything in their path. "Grandma! Grandpa!" Lily called, banging on her grandparents' bedroom door. Catherine and John emerged, coughing and disoriented. "Follow me," Lily commanded, taking control of the situation with an authority that surprised everyone. The group pushed forward through the hallway, Lily leading the way with a precision that defied her age. The stairs were engulfed in flames, the intense heat forcing them back. "The fire escape!" Lily shouted, pointing to the window at the end of the hall. David helped John, who was trembling violently, while Sarah supported Catherine. Lily threw open the window, the cool night air offering a brief respite. One by one, they descended the metal ladder, the cold of the metal a stark contrast to the inferno they were leaving behind. Lily was the last to go, ensuring everyone was safe before beginning her own descent. Safe in the garden below, the Peterson family watched in stunned silence as the flames consumed their home. The distant wail of sirens announced the imminent arrival of the fire department. Sarah hugged Lily tightly, tears of relief and fear streaming down her face. It was then that Lily remembered the family photo album, the one containing generations of memories, including the last pictures of her great-grandfather. It was inside, in the living room cabinet. Without a second thought, Lily broke free from her mother's embrace and ran back towards the burning house. "Lily!" "No!" Sarah's desperate cry cut through the night, but Lily was already back on the fire escape, climbing with fierce determination. The heat was unbearable, the smoke so thick she could barely see, but Lily knew exactly where to go. She moved swiftly through the living room, fire surrounding her on all sides. With trembling hands, she opened the cabinet and grabbed the heavy photo album. The ceiling groaned ominously above her. Burning pieces of wood began to fall. Lily raced back to the window, the album clutched tightly to her chest. Each breath was a struggle, her lungs protesting against the toxic smoke. Outside, the Peterson family watched in absolute horror. The firefighters had just arrived, scrambling to set up their equipment. David tried desperately to go back inside, only to be restrained by the firefighters, and then, like a phantom emerging from the flames, Lily appeared at the window. With a strength she didn't know she possessed, she descended the fire escape, the precious album still firmly in her grasp. As soon as her feet touched the ground, Lily was engulfed in the arms of her family. Tears, coughs, and words of relief mingled as the firefighters rushed to battle the blaze. Exhausted and covered in soot, Lily looked down at the album in her hands, then back at her burning home. In that moment, she understood that she had done something extraordinary. She hadn't just saved her family, she had preserved the memories that bound them together. As paramedics approached to examine them, Lily finally allowed the tears to fall. The danger had passed, but she knew that nothing would ever be the same. The night a 9-year-old girl became a hero had just begun, and the repercussions of her courageous actions would reverberate for a long time to come. The sirens continued to wail, their lights flashing against the night sky, illuminating Lily's determined face. The Peterson house might be in flames, but the spirit of their family, embodied in that brave young girl, remained unbroken. Chaos reigned at 42 Maple Street. Flames voraciously devoured the Peterson family home, casting dancing shadows against the night sky. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid smell of burning wood. Amidst this inferno, a 9-year-old girl had just accomplished the unthinkable. Lily Peterson stood on the lawn, her small hands still clutching the family photo album. Her soot-stained face contrasted dramatically with the deep blue of her eyes, which reflected the flames as if they held all the fire in the world. She trembled, not from fear, but from pure adrenaline. Paramedics rushed towards her, but Lily gently waved them away. "I'm fine," she insisted, her voice hoarse from the smoke, but firm. "Take care of my grandparents first." Fire Chief Jack Thompson, a burly man with 30 years of experience, approached Lily. His eyes, which had witnessed countless fires, were wide with astonishment. You went back inside?" he asked, incredulous. Lily nodded, clutching the album to her chest. "I had to save our memories," she replied simply. Chief Thompson knelt down to meet her gaze. "What you did was incredibly dangerous," he said, his voice a mixture of admiration and paternal concern. "But it was also one of the bravest acts I've ever seen in my entire career." Meanwhile, Sarah and David Peterson watched their daughter with a mixture of horror and overwhelming pride. The fear they had felt when they saw Lily disappear back into the burning house still pulsed through their veins. How did you do it, honey?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. Lily looked at her mother, her eyes shining with a maturity beyond her years. "I remembered what Firefighter Johnson taught us at school," she explained. "I stayed low, where the air was cleaner. I covered my mouth and nose with my sleeve, and—" She hesitated for a moment. "I thought of you guys. How sad it would be to lose all our pictures." David, fighting back tears, embraced his daughter. "You could have been seriously hurt, Lily, or worse." "I know, Dad," Lily interrupted softly. "But something inside me told me I could do it. I had to try." Chief Thompson, who had been listening to the conversation, stepped in. "And your daughter has remarkable instincts," he said to Lily's parents. "She did exactly what a trained firefighter would do in a rescue situation. It's simply incredible." At that moment, Catherine and John, Lily's grandparents, approached, still wrapped in emergency blankets. Their faces were pale with shock, but their eyes shone with gratitude. "Our little hero," Catherine whispered, hugging Lily tightly. "You saved our lives." John, a normally reserved man, couldn't contain his tears. I didn't even hear the smoke alarm," he admitted, his voice choked with emotion. "If it weren't for you, Lily," Lily smiled at her grandparents, an expression that blended childlike innocence with a wisdom beyond her years. "I just did what I had to do, Grandpa," she said simply. As the family gathered in a collective embrace, the firefighters continued their battle against the flames. The roar of the fire was punctuated by the hiss of high-pressure hoses and the shouts of firefighters coordinating their efforts. Chief Thompson stepped away to oversee the operation, but not before casting one last admiring glance at Lily. In his 30 years as a firefighter, he had never seen anything like it. A 9-year-old child not only remaining calm during a fire, but also leading a rescue and then going back to save something precious. It was surreal. As paramedics finally convinced Lily to be examined, news of the extraordinary rescue began to spread. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, whispered amongst themselves, staring in awe at the small figure of Lily. She saved her whole family, an elderly woman whispered, her eyes wide with admiration. She then went back for a photo album, added another neighbor, shaking his head in disbelief. Lily's story was about to transcend the boundaries of Willow Creek, becoming a beacon of courage and determination that would inspire many. Meanwhile, Lily finally opened the photo album, its pages miraculously intact. There were the memories of generations, her grandparents' wedding, her mother's birth, her own first photos as a baby, and there, on the last page, the photo of her great-grandfather, smiling serenely as if he knew his legacy was safe in the hands of his brave great-granddaughter. "See, Mom," Lily said softly, showing the picture to Sarah. "That's why I had to go back. We couldn't lose this." Sarah, looking at the photo and then at her daughter, felt a surge of emotion so powerful it almost took her breath away. In that moment, she fully understood the magnitude of what Lily had done. It wasn't just about saving lives or material possessions. It was about preserving the very essence of what made them a family. David, sensing the depth of the moment, knelt beside Lily. "Honey," he began, his voice trembling with emotion, "what you did today, it was beyond brave. It was heroic," Chief Thompson finished, having returned. "Mr. and Mrs. Peterson, your daughter demonstrated a level of courage and presence of mind today that many adults don't possess. She not only saved your lives, but she also preserved something priceless. That's what we call true heroism." Lily, still holding the album, looked around. At her family, reunited and safe. At the firefighters, still battling the blaze. At the neighbors, watching with a mixture of shock and admiration. And finally, at the house where she had grown up, now consumed by fire. In that moment, something shifted within her. Lily understood that life was precious and fragile, that every moment should be cherished. She had faced the fire and emerged not just as a survivor, but as a hero. "I just wanted everyone to be okay," she said softly, more to herself than to anyone else. Chief Thompson smiled, placing a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder. "And thanks to you, you did something incredible today, Lily. Something that will be remembered for a long time." As the sun began to rise on the horizon, casting a golden light over the scene of the fire, the Peterson family embraced once more. They had lost their home, but they had gained something far more valuable, a newfound appreciation for life, for memories, and for the extraordinary spirit of a 9-year-old girl who had changed everything. Lily Peterson's incredible rescue wasn't just the end of a terrifying night, but the beginning of a journey none of them could have foreseen. A journey of courage, of overcoming adversity, and of discovering the true meaning of family and heroism. The morning sun bathed Willow Creek in a golden light, a stark contrast to the devastation left by the fire at the Peterson home. Smoke still lingered in the air, a persistent reminder of the night that had changed their lives forever. Aunt Carol, Sarah's older sister, arrived at the scene as soon as she was notified. Her eyes, so similar to Sarah's, were wide with concern. "Oh my God, Sarah, are you all right?" she exclaimed, hugging her sister tightly. Sarah, still in a state of shock, simply nodded silently. Carol then turned to Lily, who remained seated on the lawn, the photo album clutched firmly in her lap. "I heard you were very brave, sweetheart," Carol said softly, kneeling beside her niece. Lily looked at her aunt, her blue eyes reflecting a mixture of exhaustion and something deeper, more unsettling. "I just did what I had to do," she replied, her voice surprisingly monotone. Carol exchanged a worried glance with David, who was speaking with the fire marshal. "Well," she said, forcing a cheerful tone, "you're all coming to stay with me for a while. I've already prepared the guest rooms." The move to Aunt Carol's house was a quiet, somber affair. The Peterson family, normally so lively and talkative, seemed to have been enveloped in a bubble of shock. Catherine and John moved as if in a dream, their eyes still reflecting the horror of the previous night. Meanwhile, news of Lily's heroism spread rapidly through the small town of Willow Creek. Neighbors began appearing at Carol's house, bringing food, clothes, and words of comfort. But everyone wanted to see Lily, the little hero who had saved her family from the flames. On the third day after the fire, Willow Creek's mayor, a portly man named Gerald Hopkins, appeared at the door. "I've come to personally thank young Lily," he announced, his chest puffed out with civic pride. "She's an example to our entire community." Lily, who had been sitting quietly in the corner of the room, looked up at the mayor with a blank expression. "Thank you, sir," she murmured, her voice barely audible. Sarah, noticing her daughter's discomfort, quickly intervened. "Lily's a little tired right now, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps we could arrange something for another time." But the visits continued. Reporters from the local newspaper, teachers from Lily's school, even strangers who had heard the story and wanted to meet the hero girl of Willow Creek. Each visit seemed to drain a little more of Lily's energy. One evening, about a week after the fire, Carol found Lily sitting alone on the porch, staring up at the starry sky. "Everything all right, sweetheart?" she asked gently, sitting down beside her niece. Lily remained silent for a long moment before speaking. "Aunt Carol," she began, her voice trembling slightly, Sometimes I can still smell the smoke and hear the crackling of the flames. Is that normal?" Carol felt her heart clench. "Oh, Lily," she whispered, pulling the girl into a hug. "Yes, it's normal. You went through something very scary. It's going to take time to process it all." Inside the house, Sarah and David were facing their own struggles. Sarah frequently woke up during the night, screaming Lily's name, reliving the terrifying moment when she saw her daughter run back into the burning house. David, in turn, had become excessively protective, barely letting Lily out of his sight. Catherine and John were also showing signs of trauma. Catherine had become obsessed with checking the smoke detectors in Carol's house, sometimes multiple times during the night. John, who had always been a strong, independent man, now startled at the slightest noise. Dr. Michael Stein, a local psychologist who offered to help the family, explained the situation during a visit. "So what you're experiencing is a normal response to a highly traumatic event," he said gently. "It's called post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. It's important to remember that this isn't a weakness. It's the brain trying to process and cope with an extreme experience." As Dr. Stein spoke, Lily played absently with a strand of her hair, a habit she had recently developed. Her eyes, once so lively and curious, now seemed distant, as if she were constantly reliving that terrible night. "What about Lily?" Sarah asked, her voice thick with worry. "She seems so different." Dr. Stein looked at Lily with compassion. "Lily faced something that few adults could endure," he explained. "Her mind is trying to reconcile the 9-year-old girl she is with, the heroic actions she performed. That can be extremely confusing and frightening for her." At that moment, as if to illustrate Dr. Stein's point, a car backfired loudly in the street outside. Lily jumped, her eyes wide with fear, the photo album she rarely let go of falling to the floor. "It's okay, honey," David said quickly, moving to comfort his daughter. "It was just a car." Lily nodded stiffly, but her eyes remained fixed on the window, as if expecting to see flames at any moment. Dr. Stein sighed softly. "It will take time," he said to the family. "But with support, patience, and perhaps some therapy, you will get through this together." As the Peterson family gathered in a collective hug, the sun began to set outside. The shadows lengthened, reminding everyone that night was coming. For Lily and her family, each nightfall brought a new battle against the ghosts of the fire. But it also brought the promise of a new dawn, of healing, and perhaps of a return to a normalcy that now seemed so distant. The little hero of Willow Creek had saved her family from the flames. Now, it was time for the family to help save Lily from the invisible scars left by that fateful night. Autumn in Willow Creek painted the trees in shades of red and gold, a beauty that contrasted sharply with the somber mood that hung over Aunt Carol's house. 2 weeks had passed since the fire that had forever changed the lives of the Peterson family. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Sarah decided it was time to confront a task they had all been avoiding, examining the photo album that Lily had so bravely rescued from the flames. With a deep sigh, she gathered the family in Carol's living room. "I think it's time we looked at this together," Sarah said softly, holding the album carefully as if it were made of glass. Lily, sitting cross-legged on the floor, looked at the album with a mixture of fascination and apprehension. Since the fire, she had barely touched it, as if afraid the memories might crumble to ash at the slightest contact. Catherine and John settled on the sofa, their faces tense with anticipation. David stood behind Sarah, a protective hand on her shoulder. Carol remained by the doorway, a silent, supportive presence. With trembling fingers, Sarah opened the album. The first page revealed a time-yellowed photograph, Catherine and John's wedding decades ago. "Oh," Catherine exclaimed softly, her eyes filling with tears. "I remember that day like it was yesterday." The photo showed a radiant young couple, Catherine in a simple but elegant wedding dress, and John, in a slightly oversized suit, smiled at the camera with palpable happiness. John cleared his throat, his voice thick with emotion. "I was so nervous that day. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, but you looked so handsome," Catherine whispered, squeezing her husband's hand. Lily leaned closer, her eyes wide with fascination. "You look so young, Grandma and Grandpa." Sarah turned the page, revealing a series of photos from her own birth and early years. "Look at this," she said, a nostalgic smile on her lips. "This is me, just a few days old." The photo showed a chubby baby in the arms of a younger Catherine, with John peering over her shoulder, pride evident in his face. "You were such a calm baby," Catherine commented, her voice soft with remembrance. "Slept through the night from day one." David chuckled softly. "Well, that trait certainly didn't get passed down to Lily," he teased, ruffling his daughter's hair affectionately. As they turned the pages, more memories surfaced. There were photos of Sarah on her first day of school, clutching a backpack almost bigger than herself. Pictures of family vacations, with wide smiles and picturesque landscapes in the background. Moments frozen in time, each telling a story, each a priceless treasure. Then they came to the more recent photos, Sarah and David's wedding, with the radiant bride in her white gown and the groom looking like he'd won the lottery. "That was the happiest day of my life," David said softly, leaning in to kiss Sarah's cheek. "Until then," Sarah corrected with a smile, turning the page to reveal a photo of newborn Lily. The room fell silent for a moment as everyone absorbed the image. Baby Lily, with her large blue eyes and a tuft of dark hair, stared directly at the camera with an expression of pure curiosity. "You were so tiny," Sarah whispered, tracing the outline of the baby's face in the photo with a gentle finger. "But your eyes, they already seem to know so much." Lily leaned forward, studying the photo of herself intently. "I was cute," she murmured, almost to herself. "You still are, sweetheart," David said quickly. "Fine inside and out." The pages continued to turn, revealing Lily's growth, her first birthday, covered in cake and laughing joyfully, her first day of school, holding Sarah's hand with determination, Lily at the park, at the zoo, at the beach, each photo a window into a precious moment from the past. Finally, they reached the last page of the album. There it was, the photo of Lily's great-grandfather, the one she had mentioned on the night of the fire. The elderly man smiled serenely at the camera, his eyes, the same blue eyes as Lily's, twinkling with a quiet wisdom. "That's your great-grandpa Robert," Catherine explained softly. "He died before you were born, Lily, but he would have adored you." Lily stared at the photo, a thoughtful expression on her young face. "He has my eyes," she said quietly. "Actually," John corrected gently, "you have his eyes. It's his legacy, passed down through the generations to you." In that moment, something seemed to shift in Lily's face. Her eyes, which in recent weeks had been clouded by the trauma of the fire, suddenly sparkled with a new understanding. "I understand now," she said, her voice low but firm. "That's why it was so important to save this album. These aren't just pictures, they're our stories, our family." Sarah pulled Lily into a tight hug, silent tears streaming down her face. "Yes, my love, that's exactly it." David joined the hug, followed by Catherine and John. For a long moment, the Peterson family remained like that, united not just by love, but by a newfound understanding of the priceless value of the memories Lily had saved. Carol, still by the doorway, discreetly wiped a tear from her own eye. She knew this moment was a turning point. The Peterson family still had a long road ahead to full recovery, but this was a crucial step. As the sun began to set outside, casting a golden glow through the windows, the family continued to browse through the album. Laughter mingled with tears as more stories were shared, more memories relived. And at the center of it all was Lily, the little hero who had not only saved her family's lives, but also preserved their history. She looked at the photos, at the smiling faces of her loved ones, and felt a surge of warmth that had nothing to do with the fire that still haunted her dreams. In that moment, Lily truly understood the value of what she had done. She hadn't just saved an album, she had saved the heart and soul of her family. And with that understanding came a spark of hope, a glimmer that no matter how difficult the road ahead might be, they would face it together, strengthened by the memories they shared and the love that bound them. The sun had barely risen when Lily woke up screaming, her small body trembling and covered in a cold sweat. Sarah rushed into the room, finding her daughter curled up in bed, eyes wide with terror. "The flames, Mommy," Lily sobbed, clinging to Sarah. "They were everywhere. I couldn't save you this time." Sarah held Lily tightly, feeling her heart break a little more. It was the third night in a row that nightmares had plagued her daughter. "It's okay, honey. We're all safe. You saved us, remember?" As she soothed Lily, Sarah heard the familiar sound of the coffee maker starting downstairs. David was already awake, no doubt. Probably hadn't slept much either. Later that morning, while Lily played quietly in Carol's backyard, Sarah and David talked in hushed tones in the kitchen. "She needs professional help, Sarah," David insisted, his voice heavy with concern. "These nightmares, the way she flinches at the slightest noise, it's not healthy." Sarah sighed, rubbing her temples. I know. But what if talking about it only makes things worse? She's so young." Their conversation was interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. David went to answer it, returning moments later with a tense expression. "It's another reporter," he said quietly. "Wants an interview with Lily." Sarah felt a wave of frustration. Ever since the story of Lily's heroic rescue had spread, the local media wouldn't leave them alone. "Tell him to go away," she said firmly. "Lily's not available for interviews." David nodded, going back to dismiss the reporter. When he returned, he found Sarah staring out the window, watching Lily in the backyard. The girl was sitting alone under a tree, listlessly flipping through the photo album she had saved. "She looks so lost," Sarah murmured. "That's why we need professional help," David insisted gently. "Dr. Stein mentioned a therapist who specializes in childhood trauma. Maybe we should make an appointment." Sarah hesitated for a moment before reluctantly agreeing. "So okay, let's try. But we have to ask Lily first. She's already had to deal with so much out of her control." That afternoon, the family gathered in the living room to talk to Lily. The girl looked at them with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Honey," Sarah began softly, "we've been thinking about you talking to someone special. Someone who can help with the nightmares and the difficult feelings you've been having." Lily frowned. "You mean a doctor for my head?" David smiled slightly. "Something like that. A person trained to help children who have gone through scary things, like you have." Lily was silent for a long moment, her blue eyes clouded with thoughts that seemed beyond her years. "Do heroes need help?" she finally asked, her voice small and uncertain. The question caught everyone off guard. Sarah knelt in front of Lily, taking her hands. "Honey, even the biggest heroes need help sometimes. Being strong doesn't mean facing everything alone." "But I'm supposed to be brave," Lily insisted, tears starting to well up in her eyes. "Everyone keeps saying how brave and special I am, but I'm scared all the time now. That's not being a hero." David joined them on the floor. "Lily, being a hero doesn't mean not being afraid. It means doing the right thing even when you are afraid. And you did exactly that." Lily looked at her parents, her eyes filled with confusion and vulnerability. "But what if I don't want to be a hero? What if I just want to be me?" Sarah felt her heart clench at those words. "Oh, honey," she said softly, "you are perfect just the way you are. Hero or not, you are our Lily, and we love you more than anything. At that moment, the doorbell rang again. David stood up with a frustrated sigh, going to answer it. He returned moments later, his face a mask of contained irritation. "More reporters?" Sarah asked, even though she already knew the answer. David nodded. 2 this time. Apparently, a national TV network picked up the story. They want to do a big piece on the little hero of Willow Creek. Lily visibly cringed at that. "I don't want to talk to them," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't want anyone calling me a hero. I just want everything to go back to normal." Sarah and David exchanged worried glances. It was clear that the media attention was only exacerbating Lily's trauma. "No one is going to force you to talk to them, honey," Sarah assured her. "Your privacy and well-being are our #1 priority." David nodded in agreement. "Maybe," he suggested carefully, "we can issue a statement to the press, thank them for their interest, but ask that they respect our privacy while we recover." Sarah agreed. "Good idea. And what about you, Lily? How do you feel about talking to the therapist we mentioned?" Lily hesitated for a moment before slowly nodding. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll try. But can you come with me? I don't want to go alone." "Of course, sweetheart," Sarah replied, pulling Lily into a hug. "Fierce, we're all in this together, as a family." As she hugged her daughter, Sarah exchanged a meaningful look with David. They knew the road ahead would be difficult, dealing with Lily's trauma, managing the unwanted media attention, and trying to regain some sense of normalcy. It would all be a challenge. But looking at Lily, so small yet so strong, they felt a renewed sense of determination. Their daughter had saved them from the flames. Now it was their turn to save her from the invisible scars left by that terrible night. As the day drew to a close, the Peterson family gathered in the living room, sharing a moment of quiet togetherness. Lily, nestled between her parents, was once again flipping through the photo album. Each picture was a reminder not only of what they had almost lost, but also of what they still had, each other. And as the shadows lengthened outside, there was a growing feeling within the house, a sense that no matter what the future held, they would face it together. Because in the end, being a family, being there for each other through thick and thin, was the truest act of heroism. Chapter 7. The Healing Journey. The Willow Creek Airport bustled with activity that autumn morning. Amidst the throngs of hurried travelers, the Peterson family stood out, not for their haste, but for the cautious way they moved. Sarah held Lily's hand tightly, while David carried their luggage, his eyes constantly scanning their surroundings. The decision to travel to New York City hadn't been easy. After weeks of therapy and battling unwanted media attention, Dr. Stein suggested a change of scenery might be beneficial for everyone, especially Lily. New York City?" Lily had asked, her eyes lighting up for the first time in weeks. With all those tall buildings and Central Park. Now, standing in the boarding line, Sarah couldn't help but notice how much more animated Lily seemed, almost vibrant. The girl looked around with curiosity, her blue eyes absorbing every detail of the airport. "Mom," Lily whispered, tugging on Sarah's sleeve, "that lady over there looks nervous about the flight. Maybe we should talk to her." Sarah looked in the indicated direction and saw an elderly woman, her hands trembling as she clutched her ticket. Before Sarah could respond, Lily was already moving towards the woman. "Hello," Lily said softly. "Is this your first time flying?" The woman looked up in surprise at the small figure before her. "Oh, yes, dear, and I'm a little frightened, to be honest," Lily smiled gently. "You don't need to be afraid. Flying is safer than driving, and look," she pointed out the window. "The sky is so beautiful today. It's going to be an amazing trip." Sarah watched amazed as her daughter calmed the woman with kind words and a reassuring smile. It was as if the old Lily was back, the confident, compassionate girl who existed before the fire. The flight to New York was uneventful, though David remained visibly tense during takeoff and landing. Lily, surprisingly, remained calm, even entertaining Catherine and John with stories she made up about the passing clouds. Upon landing at JFK Airport, the family was immediately engulfed by the frenetic pace of New York City. The noise, the crowds, the skyscrapers that seemed to touch the sky. It was all new and a little intimidating. "It's so big," Catherine murmured, clutching John's arm. Lily, however, seemed to thrive on the city's energy. "It's amazing," she exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement. "Can we go to the Empire State Building? And the Statue of Liberty?" David laughed at the sound, surprising even himself. "One thing at a time, Princess. First, let's get settled at the hotel." The hotel, a towering building in the heart of Manhattan, offered a breathtaking view of the city. While Sarah and David handled the check-in, Lily took Catherine and John by the hand. "Come on, Grandma and Grandpa, let's explore the lobby." The next few days were a whirlwind of emotions and experiences. The family visited all the major sites: Central Park, where Lily ran and played as she hadn't done in weeks; the Museum of Natural History, where she gaped in awe at the dinosaurs; and, of course, the top of the Empire State Building. It was there, looking out at the vast cityscape, that the first real challenge of the trip arose. A sudden noise, like a distant explosion, echoed through the observation deck. Lily froze, her eyes widening with fear. "Fire!" she whispered, her body beginning to tremble. Sarah quickly knelt beside her daughter. "No, honey, it's not fire. Probably just a truck backfiring down there or something. We're safe up here, remember?" Lily closed her eyes, taking deep breaths as her therapist had taught her. "We're safe," she repeated to herself. "There's no fire. We're safe." David watched, feeling a mixture of pride and heartache as he saw his daughter fighting so bravely against her fears. He joined them, wrapping both of them in a protective hug. "How about we count how many yellow cabs we can see down there?" he suggested, trying to distract Lily. Slowly, the fear in Lily's eyes was replaced by determination. "Okay," she said, her voice still a little shaky. "Let's count." As the days passed, the family faced other challenges. The crowded subway triggered a panic attack for John, reminding him of the feeling of being trapped during the fire. It was Lily who held his hand firmly, telling him funny stories to distract him until they reached their station. One night, a false fire alarm in the hotel tested everyone's nerves. But it was Lily who calmly led her family through the hallways, reminding everyone of the safety procedures she knew so well. "See," she said, pointing to the exit signs, "it's just like firefighter Johnson taught us. Stay calm and follow the signs." On their last night in New York, the family gathered in their hotel room, sharing pizza and reminiscing about the week's adventures. There was a palpable sense of change in the air. "You know," Sarah said, looking affectionately at Lily, "I think this trip was exactly what we needed." David nodded in agreement. "Definitely. It's like we've gotten a little piece of ourselves back here." Lily, sitting between her grandparents, smiled. "I feel stronger now," she admitted, "like I can face anything, as long as we're together." Catherine kissed the top of Lily's head. "That's how a family should be, sweetheart. Together, facing whatever comes our way." As night fell over the city that never sleeps, the Peterson family felt renewed. The challenges they had faced in New York, though frightening at the time, had served to strengthen their bonds and reignite their confidence. Lily, especially, seemed transformed. The timid, frightened girl of the past few weeks had been replaced by a more confident and resilient young lady. She still carried the scars of the fire, both physical and emotional, but now she also carried the certainty that, with her family by her side, she could overcome any obstacle. As the lights of New York City twinkled through the hotel window, the Peterson family embraced, grateful for the journey they had shared and hopeful for the future that awaited them back in Willow Creek. Healing, they realized, wasn't a destination, but a journey, one they were happy to take together. The rising sun painted the New York City sky in hues of pink and orange as the Peterson family emerged from their hotel for their last day in the city. The crisp morning air carried a sense of anticipation, as if the city itself was eager to show them more of its wonders. "Where are we going today?" Lily asked, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. In the past few days, she had become the family's unofficial tour guide, always eager to explore and discover. Sarah smiled, exchanging a knowing glance with David. "Well, we have a surprise for you, sweetheart. Today we're going to visit some very special places." Their first stop was Brooklyn Bridge Park. As they strolled along the riverbank, with the iconic Manhattan Bridge looming in the background, David explained, "Did you know this is where I proposed to your mom, Lily?" Lily's eyes widened. "Really? Right here?" Sarah laughed, intertwining her fingers with David's. "Yes, it was a magical night. Your dad was so nervous he almost dropped the ring in the water." Lily looked at her parents with newfound appreciation. Seeing the place where their love story had taken such an important step made it all the more real, more tangible. She grabbed her disposable camera, a gift from Carol before the trip, and snapped a picture of her parents standing on the very spot where they had pledged their love years ago. Next, they visited the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Catherine, with tears in her eyes, told Lily about her first visit to the museum when she was young. "This is where I decided I wanted to be an art teacher," she explained, her voice thick with emotion. "Seeing all these masterpieces, it changed my life." Lily listened intently as her grandmother explained the nuances of different paintings, her passion evident in every word. On impulse, Lily asked a guard to take a picture of the whole family in front of one of Catherine's favorite paintings. Lunch was at Katz's Delicatessen, a New York institution that John insisted they had to experience. "I came here for the first time when I was just a few years older than you, Lily," he said between bites of his pastrami on rye. "The taste hasn't changed a bit." As they ate, Lily surprised everyone by initiating a game. "Let's all share our favorite part of the trip so far," she suggested. One by one, each family member shared their memories, laughing and sometimes tearing up at the recollections. That afternoon, they visited the 9/11 Memorial. The somber atmosphere touched Lily deeply. Seeing the engraved names and the reflecting pools where the Twin Towers once stood, she felt a connection to those who had faced fire and fear, just like her. "Sometimes bad things happen," she said softly, holding her parents' hands. "But look at how many people came here to remember and honor. It's like love is stronger than fear." Sarah and David exchanged emotional glances, marveling at the depth of their daughter's understanding. The day ended with a ferry ride around the Statue of Liberty at sunset. As they watched the icon of freedom against the fiery sky, each family member was lost in their own thoughts. Lily broke the silence. "You know, when I saved the photo album from the fire, I thought I was saving our memories. But now I understand that memories aren't just in pictures. They're in us, in the places we visit, in the things we do together." Her words resonated deeply with everyone. Catherine hugged her granddaughter, tears in her eyes. "You're absolutely right, sweetheart. And look at all the new memories we've made here." David nodded, his voice thick with emotion. "This trip has shown us that no matter what happens, we can always create new memories, new connections." Sarah added, "And most importantly, it's shown us what truly matters in life. It's not the things we lost in the fire. It's the love we share, the strength we find in each other." As the ferry returned to the dock, the Peterson family felt renewed. The challenges of the past few months hadn't disappeared, but they seemed less daunting now. They had rediscovered their strength as a family and their ability to find joy even after adversity. Back at the hotel, as they packed their bags for their return to Willow Creek the next day, there was a sense of anticipation in the air. It wasn't just the anticipation of going home, but the excitement of starting a new chapter. "I'm looking forward to going back," Lily said, surprising everyone. "I want to see how the rebuilding of our house is coming along." "Are you sure, honey?" Sarah asked, concerned that the memories of the fire might be too difficult. Lily nodded with determination. "Yes, our house isn't just the building, it's where we are together. And now I know we can face anything, as long as we're united." The next morning, as they boarded the plane back to Willow Creek, each member of the family carried not only their luggage, but also a renewed sense of purpose and connection. David looked out the airplane window as they took off, watching New York City shrink beneath them. "You know," he said to no one in particular, "I think we're coming back different than we arrived." Sarah smiled, squeezing his hand. "Yes, stronger, more united." Lily, sitting between her grandparents, flipped through the photos she had taken during the trip. Each picture was a new memory, a new connection. She knew that upon returning to Willow Creek, they would face new challenges. The rebuilding of the house, the return to routine, perhaps even more unwanted media attention. But now, she felt prepared. As the plane soared through the clouds, carrying them back home, Lily closed her eyes and smiled. New York City had been an adventure, a healing journey. But the real adventure, she realized, was the life they had ahead of them, a life of love, strength, and family connection. And so, with full hearts and renewed spirits, the Peterson family flew back to Willow Creek, ready to face whatever the future held, together. The return to Willow Creek was met with mixed emotions by the Peterson family. There was the joy of being back home, mingled with the anxiety of facing the memories of the fire. However, nothing could have prepared them for the shock that awaited them. David was the first to notice something was wrong. As they drove past the lot where their house used to stand, he frowned, confused. "Shouldn't there be some progress on the rebuilding by now?" he murmured to Sarah. The following morning, David decided to call the insurance company to get an update on the reconstruction process. The conversation that followed would change the course of their lives once again. "What? That can't be right," David's voice echoed through Carol's house, where the family was still staying. His face paled visibly as he listened to the representative on the other end of the line. Sarah, Catherine, John, and Lily watched with growing concern. When David finally hung up the phone, his hands were shaking. "What is it, honey?" Sarah asked, dreading the answer. David took a deep breath, trying to steady his voice. We've been victims of fraud. The insurance company says our claim was processed and paid weeks ago, but we never received anything." The silence that followed was deafening. Sarah was the first to break it. "How is that possible? We didn't authorize any payment." David shook his head, still stunned. "Apparently, someone impersonated us. Forged documents, signatures, everything. The money was transferred to an account that isn't ours." The reality of the situation began to sink in. Not only had they lost their home in the fire, but now they had also been robbed of the compensation that would allow them to rebuild it. Catherine embraced John, silent tears streaming down her face. "What are we going to do now?" she whispered. Lily, who had been quiet until then, stepped forward. Her eyes, which had seen so much in the past few months, shone with a fierce determination. "We're going to fight," she declared. "We didn't let the fire defeat us, and we're not going to let thieves defeat us either." The conviction in Lily's voice seemed to awaken something in everyone. David nodded, straightening his shoulders. "You're right, sweetheart. We're going to the police immediately." In the days that followed, the Peterson family found themselves battling on multiple fronts. There were endless phone calls with the insurance company, meetings with the police, and consultations with lawyers. The financial impact was devastating. Without the insurance money, not only was the rebuilding of their house in jeopardy, but the family's savings were rapidly being depleted by legal expenses. The emotional toll was equally severe. Sarah struggled to sleep, worried about the uncertain future they faced. David alternated between anger and despair, feeling powerless to protect his family. Catherine and John, already shaken by the fire, seemed to age years in a matter of days. But it was Lily who surprised everyone once again. Instead of retreating in the face of this new challenge, she decided to use the attention she had received for her heroic act for something positive. "Mom, Dad," she said one evening during dinner, "can I talk to the reporter who's been calling? I think I can help." Sarah and David exchanged uncertain glances. "Are you sure, honey?" Sarah asked. "You don't have to do this," Lily nodded with determination. "Yes, I do. People need to know what happened to us. Maybe that way we can prevent this from happening to other families." The next day, Lily gave her first official interview. With a maturity that surprised even the seasoned reporter, she spoke not only about the fire, but also about the fraud her family was facing. "We survived the fire," Lily said, looking directly into the camera, "and we'll survive this too. But we need everyone's help to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." The interview aired that night, and the effect was immediate. Carol's phone rang off the hook with people offering support and assistance. The Willow Creek community, already united by the fire, now rallied against this new injustice. Mr. Johnson, the owner of the local grocery store, was the first to take action. He organized a fundraising campaign, placing donation boxes in his store. "The Petersons are part of this community," he declared, and we take care of our own. Mrs. Patel, Lily's teacher, mobilized the school. The students organized a bake sale, selling homemade treats and crafts to help the Peterson family. Lily taught us the true meaning of courage, she told the parents during a meeting. Now it's our turn to give back. Even Mayor Hopkins got involved, publicly pressuring the insurance company and the authorities for a swift and thorough investigation of the case. The outpouring of support left the Peterson family overwhelmed with gratitude. One evening, as they watched another news report about their case on local TV, Sarah hugged Lily tightly. "You did this, honey," she whispered. "You brought light to this terrible situation." Lily smiled, but her eyes were thoughtful. "I just did what I thought was right, Mom. Like when I went back for the photo album. Sometimes we have to face the fire to save what's important." David, overhearing his daughter's words, felt a surge of pride and renewed determination. "You're both right," he said. "We're not giving up. We're going to fight for justice, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who might be a victim of this kind of fraud." As night fell over Willow Creek, the Peterson family gathered in Carol's living room. The future was still uncertain, the battle against the fraud far from over. But looking around at the faces of their loved ones and thinking about the community that supported them, they felt something they hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Lily, sitting between her parents, picked up the photo album she had saved from the fire. Flipping through the pages, she stopped at a recent picture taken in New York City. In it, the whole family was smiling, the Statue of Liberty in the background. "See," she said, showing the picture to everyone. "No matter what happens, we can always create new memories. And together, we can overcome anything." With those words, the Peterson family embraced, united not just by blood and shared experiences, but by a love and determination that no fraud or fire could shake. The road ahead would be difficult, but they would face it as they always had, together, one step at a time. Attorney Mark Lawson's office was an austere environment, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a panoramic view of Willow Creek. David and Sarah Peterson sat uncomfortably in the leather chairs, facing the imposing desk, as the lawyer flipped through a stack of documents. Mark began, taking off his glasses and rubbing the bridge of his nose. "The situation is complicated, but not impossible. The good news is we have solid evidence that you were victims of fraud. The bad news is that recovering the money could be a long and expensive process." Sarah squeezed David's hand, seeking and offering comfort simultaneously. "How long are we talking?" she asked, her voice betraying her anxiety. Mark hesitated. "Honestly, it could take months, maybe even a year or more. Insurance companies have powerful legal teams, and they'll do everything they can to avoid a double payout." David felt a wave of frustration. "A year, but what about our house? We can't stay at Carol's indefinitely." "I understand your frustration, Mr. Peterson," Mark said sympathetically, "but I promise we'll do everything in our power to expedite the process. In the meantime, I suggest you explore alternative financing options to begin reconstruction." Leaving the office, David and Sarah felt drained. The legal battle ahead seemed like an insurmountable mountain. "What are we going to do now?" Sarah murmured, more to herself than to David. Before David could answer, his phone rang. It was Lily. "Dad, Mom, you need to come to school right now. I have a surprise." Intrigued and a little apprehensive, David and Sarah drove to Willow Creek Elementary. Upon arriving, they were greeted by a surprising sight. The schoolyard had been transformed into a small festival. Colorful booths displayed handmade signs. "Help rebuild the Peterson home. Heroes deserve a home. Willow Creek united against fraud." Children ran around selling lemonade, homemade cookies, and small crafts. At the center of it all was Lily, wearing a t-shirt that read, "Small Acts, Big Changes." Seeing her parents, she ran towards them, her eyes shining with excitement. "Surprise!" she exclaimed. "We organized a fundraising festival to help rebuild our house." Sarah and David were speechless, looking around in astonishment. Mrs. Patel, Lily's teacher, approached with a warm smile. "Lily came up with the idea a week ago," she explained. "She rallied the entire school. The children made posters, baked goods, created games, all to raise money for you." David knelt down, meeting Lily's eyes. "You did all this, Princess?" Lily nodded, a little shy now. I just thought, if everyone helps a little, we can make a big difference, right? Sarah couldn't hold back the tears. She hugged Lily tightly, feeling a surge of pride and gratitude. You're absolutely right, my love. You're amazing. The festival was a resounding success. Not only did the children and their parents participate, but the entire Willow Creek community turned out to show their support. Mayor Hopkins gave a moving speech about the resilience of the community and the importance of coming together in difficult times. By the end of the day, Lily's campaign had raised a considerable sum. It wasn't enough to rebuild the entire house, but it was a significant start. Inspired by the success of the festival, the Willow Creek community intensified its efforts. Mr. Johnson, the grocery store owner, organized a community raffle. The local church held a benefit dinner. Even the school's soccer team held a charity game, with all proceeds going to the Petersons Rebuilding Fund. Meanwhile, the legal battle continued. Mark Lawson worked tirelessly, pressuring the insurance company and gathering evidence. David and Sarah spent hours on the phone, talking to investigators and company representatives. It was during one of these calls that a break in the case finally came. Mr. Peterson. The voice on the other end of the line sounded nervous. This is Eric from the claims department. I think I have some information that could help your case. Eric revealed that he had noticed irregularities in several cases, including the Petersons, but had been afraid to speak up. Lily's courage and the community's mobilization had inspired him to do the right thing. With Eric's information, Mark was able to put significant pressure on the insurance company. After weeks of intense negotiations, they finally reached a settlement. The insurance company agreed to pay a substantial portion of the amount owed immediately, with the remainder to be resolved in court. On a Friday night, the Peterson family gathered in Carol's living room for a special announcement. We have good news, David began, a genuine smile lighting up his face for the first time in weeks. Thanks to everyone's efforts, our amazing community, Mr. Lawson's hard work and especially Lily's courage and creativity, we can start rebuilding our house next week. The room erupted in cheers and hugs. Catherine and John wept openly, relieved to finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. Carol embraced her sister, whispering words of encouragement. Lily, however, seemed thoughtful. But what about the rest of the money, she asked. We still don't have everything right. Sarah knelt beside her daughter. You're right, honey. We still have a way to go. But thanks to you and all of Willow Creek, we have a start. And more importantly, we have hope, David added, and we'll keep fighting. Not just for ourselves, but for all the families who might be victims of fraud like this. We'll turn our experience into something positive. That night, as the family prepared for bed, there was a sense of optimism in the air that they hadn't felt in months. They knew the challenges weren't over. There were still legal battles ahead, and the rebuilding process would be long and sometimes frustrating. But looking at Lily, who was sleeping peacefully with a slight smile on her face, they remembered what truly mattered. It wasn't just the physical house they were rebuilding, but the very concept of home, a place of love, courage, and community. David embraced Sarah, both of them watching their sleeping daughter. You know, he whispered, when I think about everything we've been through, the fire, the fraud, everything, I realize we've come out stronger than ever. Sarah nodded, resting her head against David's chest. It's true, and we owe so much of that to our amazing daughter. She's taught us so much about courage, resilience, and the power of a united community. As the couple drifted off to sleep, the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the curtains. It was the dawn of a new day, filled with promise and possibilities. The Peterson family had faced fire, fraud, and fear, and emerged not just surviving, but triumphant. And at the center of it all was Lily, the little hero whose courage and compassion had inspired an entire town. Her journey was far from over, but with each challenge overcome, she grew stronger, wiser, and more determined to make a difference in the world. The future, though still uncertain, shimmered with hope. The Peterson family was ready to face it. Together, one day at a time, building not just a house, but a legacy of love, courage, and community that would last for generations. The autumn sun bathed Willow Creek in a golden light, the leaves on the trees dancing gently in the cool breeze. On 42nd Maple Street, a newly built house stood proudly, its white walls and red roof gleaming like a beacon of hope. It was the day the Peterson family had been waiting for an entire year, the day they would finally come home. Lily, now 10 years old, was the first to climb the porch steps, her hand sliding reverently along the new railing. She paused at the front door, turning to look at her family gathered on the lawn. "Are we really home?" she asked, her voice a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Sarah smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Yes, honey, we're home." David stepped forward, the key gleaming in his hand. "Want to do the honors, Princess?" Lily nodded solemnly, taking the key. With a soft click, the door swung open, revealing the warm interior of the new Peterson home. The family stepped inside, their footsteps echoing softly on the new wooden floors. The smell of fresh paint and lumber mingled in the air, creating an atmosphere of new beginnings. Catherine and John, hand in hand, looked around with wonder-filled eyes, as if they could scarcely believe this moment had finally arrived. "It's perfect," Catherine whispered, squeezing John's hand. David smiled, putting his arm around Sarah's shoulders. "It's more than perfect, it's home." As they explored the house, each room evoked memories and emotions. In the living room, where the fire had started a year ago, there was now a modern, safe fireplace. In the kitchen, gleaming appliances promised new family meals and celebrations. Lily ran to her new bedroom, a bright space painted in soft shades of blue and green. On her bed, there was a quilt made of patchwork squares, each piece donated by a different member of the Willow Creek community. "Look, Mom," Lily exclaimed, stroking the quilt. "It's like the whole town is here with me." Sarah hugged her daughter, feeling a surge of gratitude. "That's because they are, honey. They all helped us get here." As the day wore on, friends and neighbors began to arrive, bringing dishes of food, plants for the garden, and warm embraces. The house soon filled with laughter and conversation, the aroma of home-cooked meals wafting through the air. Mayor Hopkins arrived with a large envelope in hand. "Lily," he called out, his deep voice filled with emotion, "I have something for you." Curious, Lily opened the envelope. Inside was an official certificate declaring her Willow Creek's Young Citizen of the Year. "For your extraordinary courage, inspiring leadership, and tireless dedication to the community," Lily read aloud, her cheeks flushing with surprise and pride. Applause erupted in the room. Mrs. Patel, her teacher, stepped forward. "Lily not only saved her family on that terrible night," and she said, "but she continued to inspire and unite us throughout this entire year. She showed us the true meaning of resilience and compassion." David and Sarah watched, their hearts overflowing with pride. Their daughter, who had already faced more adversity in her few years of life than many adults, stood before them, not just as a survivor, but as a leader. As evening fell, the guests began to depart, leaving the Peterson family alone in their new home. Sitting around the dining room table, they reflected on the incredible journey they had taken. "If someone had told me a year ago that we'd be here today, I don't know if I would have believed them," David said, shaking his head in wonder. Sarah nodded, holding her husband's hand. "We've been through so much. The fire, the fraud, all the obstacles. But look at us now. I think we've learned a lot," Catherine added softly. "About strength, about community, about never giving up." John, usually a man of few words, cleared his throat. "We learned that a home isn't just a place. It's the people we love, the memories we share." Lily, who had been quiet, absorbing her family's words, finally spoke. "You know what I learned?" she asked, her blue eyes shining with a wisdom beyond her years. "I learned that sometimes bad things happen, but it's not the end of the story. It's how we begin a new chapter." The family was silent for a moment, reflecting on Lily's profound words. "You're absolutely right, sweetheart," Sarah said finally, pulling Lily into a hug. "And this is our new chapter right here." David stood up, raising his glass in a toast. "To our family," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "To the friends who became family, to Willow Creek, and to the future, whatever it may hold." "To the future," everyone echoed, their glasses clinking softly. Later that night, after Catherine and John had retired to their new downstairs bedroom, David and Sarah found Lily on the front porch, gazing up at the stars. "What are you thinking about, Princess?" David asked, sitting down beside her. Lily smiled, her eyes never leaving the night sky. "I'm thinking about how lucky we are," she said softly. "And not because of the house, son, or the award hand or anything like that, but because we have each other, because no matter what happens, we'll always be together." Sarah felt tears welling up in her eyes as she joined her family on the porch. She looked at David, at Lily, and then at the quiet street of Willow Creek. The house behind them was new, but the love that filled it was old and deep, forged in the flames of adversity and strengthened by the power of community. As the night wore on, the Peterson family remained on the porch, talking softly, laughing gently, and dreaming of the future. They had lost much, but they had gained even more. And there, under the stars of Willow Creek, they knew that no matter what the future brought, they would face it together, stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. The new house at 42 Maple Street wasn't just a structure of wood and brick. It was a testament to courage, to love, to community. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the Peterson family story. A chapter filled with hope, with possibilities, and above all, with love. And at the center of it all was Lily, the little hero whose courage had not only saved her family, but inspired an entire town. Her future, like that of her family, shone as brightly as the stars above, a future filled with promise, with challenges to be overcome, and with love to be shared. So, in the quiet of the Willow Creek night, a new story began. Not the end of a journey, but the exciting beginning of another.